So the Lord said, come on, y'all got to come on out of the garden because I don't want you running over there eating the tree of life in your fallen state and then live forever in a fallen state. So God institutes grace immediately in the garden by moving them away from something that's going to destroy them. You must understand that Adam and Eve does not understand this particular principle. There's a principle that is before Adam and Eve, and they're frightened and they're terrified by the principle. For the day that you eat of this tree, you shall surely die. But they ate of the tree and they didn't die. In fact, they didn't even know what die was. They didn't know what death was. They never saw a mosquito fall to the ground. A bird never died. Nothing died. Everything was eternally connected to God, and you could only die by disconnecting yourself from God. So they didn't know what it was coming from, where it was going to come, when it was going to happen. All they knew is that God spoke something, and one thing they knew about God, that whatever he says, it's going to come to pass. And they're put out of the garden. They're put out of the garden. And in order to connect them and bring them back to their rightful place, for messing with God's tithe, he begins to unfold it throughout Scripture. Unfolded throughout Scripture. Believers, we live under a kingdom economy. You know, I mean, you're blessed here today. I can come tell you, church is not filled like this all over America no more. All right, say whatever you want to say. And people throw out numbers and stuff like that, they be lying. I'm telling you. But the next 2 years for this house is going to be extraordinary. There's a season of breakthrough about to come your way that is unbelievable. All right, I'll finish this up in the second service, but let me share this with you real quickly. So Jesus comes on the scene, and when Jesus comes on the scene, you know the story about how that Abram pays tithe to Melchizedek. I don't have to carry you through all that. He goes and he pays tithe of all, and he takes 318 of his servants. He teaches them warfare. They go and they defeat 5 countries, 5 kings, 5 armies. He comes back with amassed great wealth, and when he gets there, he stands before Melchizedek, and Melchizedek is a type of Christ. He's a high priest. He has no pedigree. He has no beginning. He has no end, and he serves him communion, bread and wine. So he shows him the body of Jesus, and they fellowship. And just as he's getting ready to leave, the king of Sodom comes. That's the devil. And he comes and he says, you didn't have to pay tithe. All you had to do is give me your warfare strategy. You should be warfare strategy, and I'll teach you how to take care of yourself. He says, no, I would never do that. I would not take a thread nor a shoelace lest you say that my job made me successful or my warfare made me successful. And I want to be able to testify that God has made me successful. You got members in this church who think that they're successful because of their job. Keep on thinking that. Keep on thinking that. Keep on. A greater recession is coming to America than the recession we came out of. It is totally, absolutely biblical, but it will not come nigh the dwelling of the believers. That in the midst of that, God will take care of her. And so he establishes the order of tithing. Jesus comes on the scene, and the church folks come and say, well, you know, that was under the law and so on and so forth like that. And so they say stuff like, you know, Jesus, should we pay tithe? And one person said, you know, tithing is not in the New Testament. Well, Matthew 23 says they went to Jesus and they said, should we pay tithe? And Jesus said, well, what kind of question is that? He said, you pay tithe on cumin, you pay tithe on spearmint and mint, you pay tithe on the spices that you sprinkle on your food, but you leave the weightier of the law out, like justice and mercy. You understand what I'm saying? You know, how that, you know, we shoot people, these police officers shooting folks down in the street, nobody don't say nothing, but then a lion gets shot, and now they're closing down practices, and you understand? The weightier messages of law. What he's saying is this, is that if you're not connected to God by giving God what belongs to him, Satan comes in and gives you a false sense of justice, and a false sense of security, and a false sense of worth. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And so he says, you do those things. He said, you ought to do that and this. Well, the other man came up, so since you're talking about that, should we even pay taxes? He said, do you have a coin? They pulled the coin out, looked at the coin says Caesar's face. He said, well, then render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is his. What the Lord was saying is this, is that those of you that go to this church who don't pay your taxes, your tithe can't help you. Those of you that pay your taxes and pay your tithe can't help you. You pay your tithe and don't pay your taxes, your tithe can't help you. He says the only way you're going to be blessed is rendering unto Caesar what is his and unto God what is his. So the text makes a very, very clear, powerful case for paying your taxes and paying your tithe. And there are many of you in here who will pay your tithe religiously, but you steal from Uncle Sam and you're still cursed. Because you know you did not pay the amount of money in this church that you're asking for a reimbursement slip for. You know you only paid $9.51, and now you're trying to get a contribution statement for $3,000. The devil is a lie.